Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense, the wrestling podcast where we talk about professional wrestling and whether or not it makes sense, or if it doesn't make sense. Another classic introduction by me. I think you'll agree. Oh, wow. That could be the best one yet. You know,
Nailed it.
wow. Please, you'll flatter me in front of our wide audience. So let's chat about something that's been in the wrestling news quite recently, which is that last week, as of the time of recording this, the WWE started to crack down on its employees. Employees said with like quotation marks, but you can't see that because this is a podcast. But pretend that I did the quotation marks over the word employees, because technically they're independent contractors.
That's correct, yes.
But employees, whatever, independent contractors, whatever, they were trying to do a little crackdown on these independent contractors doing anything outside of the WWE. For example, YouTube shows or Twitch shows or that stupid Cameo website. I mean, some people like it. I shouldn't call it stupid. I mean, it's a good idea, but it's also like, it's way too like, what does Roman Reigns charge for a Cameo? Like $200 or something?
Oh, I have no idea.
I mean, that's a good gig if you can get it.
Absolutely.
$200 to say, hey, Carl, nice face, good to see you. Hope everything. Hope your girlfriend gets back with you. See you later, Roman Reigns. Like, fucking 1 minute video, and you're like, there's $200, sir. It's a pretty good gig. One day we'll get there.
Yeah, why aren't we doing this?
I mean, I believe the reason that we're not doing this is because nobody would pay good money for it. Like, how could we charge people for this? So yes, there's been a bit of a crackdown on that recently, and that brought up a big dispute with the WWE and the way the pro wrestling, kind of everywhere, not just in the WWE, but the way the pro wrestling designates its workers as independent contractors as opposed to employees, because you would sign a contract to work in the WWE, which would make it seem like you're an employee.
Yeah.
If you're an independent contractor, you've been hired for that job. You should also be free to take other jobs because you're independently contracted. Hence the name. But for some reason, for a long time, not just the WWE, but pretty much every wrestling company, they just stick with independent contractor. I assume that this came from the rise of the WWE and the WCW that opposed it. Once they started to become like big money, they realized that they had to lock in their, biggest drawing employees, as it were, their biggest drawing independent contractors. So this probably started like sometime in the 90s. And then I guess both companies realized that if they continue to call them independent contractors while employing them as employees, they can get away with a lot of shit. Right? Like that, you would imagine that's the reason they kept it around.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So it seems kind of weird to have independent contractors who aren't being independently contracted. They do have a contract. They have a specific contract that locks them into that one company for however many years. So surely by that point, I understand that most wrestlers are independent contractors, but surely once you write that contract and they sign it, they move from being independent contractors to being employees.
I mean, you would have thought so.
Yeah. Right? Logically, that's what makes sense. But for some reason, the pro wrestling world hasn't, well, I say no reason, or for some reason. But the pro wrestling world doesn't seem to have adopted that definition.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, I guess, where, WWE and wrestling in general have bandied this independent contractors, term around for so long because it gives them all the power, and it leaves their superstars with like no power whatsoever. Like they don't get healthcare, they don't get benefits or anything. They're pretty much working full-time hours and stuff, and expected to do not just like, show up for Raw and SmackDown tapings or whatever, but like do all this extra stuff as well. Like they're doing virtual meet and greets and stuff now, and going to media days and whatever. But like they got to do all this extra stuff, and as well as their wrestling, and they they don't get anything for it. They don't. There's no benefits at all for them. So it's been a weird kind of stipulation that WWE especially have kind of been able to take advantage of for a long time, even though like a lot of people have kind of pointed it out that it's bullshit. Like John Oliver on Last Week Tonight, there was like a big sort of 20-minute segment on WWE and stuff, and like the whole independent contractor deal from last year, I think it was, or maybe the year before. But either way, it's worth going back and checking out if you can, because he just ripped them apart and kind of pointed out how the whole thing is like a pretty corrupt practice. And like there was after all this stuff with the third party thing came out last week, whatever it was, like Andrew Yang, who's he was a former presidential candidate, but he's like still like one of the top guys in the Democratic Party, and he said that if the Democrats win the election this year and he's Secretary of Labor or whatever, he's gonna really like bring this to the fore in in like an official setting and see if he can do something to help out these wrestlers who are given their bodies for WWE and not really. I mean, they're getting obviously paid pretty well compared to most people, but like they don't get the same rights that everyone else does from their jobs, and that's been it's been a thing that's kind of stuck out for a long time.
Yeah, you make some good points. As if Vince McMahon didn't want Donald Trump to win the election again anyway. Now the specter of the Democrats coming in and scuppering his entire business is also a good reason for him to vote for Trump. So
yeah,
4 more years, and maybe another 4 years after that, apparently, according to what that man says. What a ghoul. what a ghoulish entity. But we're not here to talk about that. Now one thing I wanted to talk about is like I assume they are being paid extra for doing like virtual meet and greets and shit. But I think part of the problem for the WWE or for their employees who are suffering through this is that I'd say they're probably still getting paid like pretty well now that they're not traveling as much during the pandemic. I think they're probably now saving like more money than they ever did before because they're not spending money on travel. But I imagine a lot of the people who are doing these things like Twitch and YouTube and Cameo and stuff like that are doing it more so because like they want to and they have free time to do it. Again, because of the pandemic, they have a lot more free time than they used to. And like I don't think a lot of them are doing it for the money. I think that they're doing it like AJ Styles, that they're playing video games on Twitch and stuff. He's doing it primarily because he likes playing video games, and people know who he is, so people are going to watch him. He's probably doing it more for fun than for any kind of like financial benefit, right? And I feel like that is kind of amplified with the fact that people have more time on their hands.
I will disagree with that a little bit, because apparently you can make thousands and thousands of dollars a month from Twitch. Like to use Paige as an example, she's apparently she's making something like, I think I read it was like something around about like $48,000 a month, because she's in
What?
this, yeah, she's in this like second tier kind of celebrity status or whatever, and she's because of all of her interactions and viewers and whatnot, she's raking it in, which is why obviously she's done what she's done and like changed everything to her real name rather than label it Paige and stuff and get into any kind of dispute with WWE. But yeah, so she wants to protect that kind of that earning potential. And I'm sure a lot of other people are thinking the same way as well.
Right, but that's for Paige. I mean, yes, you use Paige as an example, but Paige hasn't wrestled in years. She hasn't been a manager on TV. She hasn't really done a whole lot on their product. They're probably still paying her some kind of salary or whatever, but like, I could see why she, out of all of the other guys, would want to do this for money more so than the love of the business. I mean, I'm not saying that Paige doesn't like enjoy doing her Twitch thing, but I would have thought that a lot of the people are doing it because they enjoy doing it. Like Xavier Woods loves his YouTube channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't start that to make money. It was a little side thing he did because he enjoys video games, right? This is very evident.
Mm-hmm.
And it has gone on to be incredibly successful. But I thought that some of these people, some of the wrestlers, the contracted employees or whatever the hell we're calling them these days, because they're still employed by the WWE, we're probably doing it more so for fun than for money. Not to diminish I'm not saying the WWE were right for trying to crack down on that shit, because they're still paying the money. But what I mean is, it seems silly for the WWE to crack down on it because I feel like they're doing it for fun, Whereas the WWE would be like, how do we monetize this? You mentioned earlier about virtual like meet and greets and stuff like that. You know that one of the reasons WWE don't want people doing cameo, like I said, fucking Roman Reigns making $200 or whatever. If the WWE can work out a deal with Cameo where they get a little cut of those profits, that looks good for them, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, I read like an article yesterday which said that apparently WWE are looking to kind of establish a relationship with Cameo, and that's a big part of the reason why they wanted to get the superstars like off it and doing their own thing, so they could negotiate like this big, sort of money making deal for the company to cover everyone.
Right. So the way I saw it was, the objection from the WWE on their part was like twofold. One of them was they saw an opportunity to make more money and wanted a little piece of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure, they could figure out a way to get a Twitch sponsorship or whatever. They're partnered with YouTube, I imagine. So like they can make money that way. I can see why they would want to make sure they have deals in place first before they start to roll out a big company-wide thing, because it's easier for them to manage that way. If everybody's off doing their own things get complicated and muddied before they've even started out a deal, And I can kind of understand that, because that's like it's a business practice, really,
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the individual people. It's more like, well, you work for a company, makes sense, they want to put their tendrils in it. Which is why I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but this is why I heard that Lana got in trouble, because she had scored some kind of deal with a company that the WWE were trying to score a deal with. And so they're annoyed that she kind of like they could have got a great deal out of it for the whole company, and instead Lana got a deal that's specific to her, which I don't begrudge, fair play to her. If you can do it, go ahead and do it. But I feel like the WWE were probably working out a deal with a company, and they got like undercut by one of their own employees. That doesn't look good for them, The second reason that I thought the WWE were doing this is because once you start letting people involved in the wrestling business talk and act and do whatever outside of the wrestling business, it gets very muddy and hard to control. And again, you shouldn't be like super controlling over your employees. But you got to remember that pro wrestling is all about, it's all an act.
Yeah.
Don't want to spoil that, but it's all supposed to be kayfabe. So, like, I always enjoyed when people are kind of kayfabing it on Twitter. Like
Mm.
I get why people just want to chill and relax and just be themselves, but also like the specific role they're supposed to be playing is to be that guy like all the time. You know, maybe that's just me being an old man, but I do kind of miss the old kayfabe business. But aside from that, like again, going back to AJ Styles, I heard that he was doing a lot of talk about like Paul Heyman on his
Mm.
Twitch channel and stuff like this. And that gets into like a different side of it. Now you slip in secrets that aren't supposed to be. You're just like, you shouldn't be talking about that to anybody really. That's like behind the scenes stuff.
Mm.
We shouldn't necessarily be privy to that kind of information because it's unnecessary for us to know as wrestling fans. Um, and it feels a little silly like saying that kind of stuff out loud whenever you're not in a shoot interview where you're getting paid, or whatever. Um, so I can see where the WWE want to crack down on that as well, because you don't want stuff like that coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. But
Well, I'm not trying to defend the WWE, but I am saying I can see why they did what they did.
no, I totally agree. And like as well, like one of the big points they've made is about protecting their intellectual property, as in like they've put time and effort into creating these characters, or collaborating with the wrestlers to create these characters and put them on TV and make them famous, essentially.
Mm.
So they don't want those wrestlers to then keep portraying those characters outside of the realm of WWE, and then like sort of working their own deals to say, like you could have, I don't know, the Fiend start like promoting Popeye's chicken or something. And like if he did that independently off the back of WWE, like of course they're going to be pissed. So I can see where they're coming from totally.
I kind of want to see that advert now. Like, how would that work? I mean, I'm sure he does love. Yeah, who doesn't love chicken?
Oh hell yeah.
I've never had Popeyes, so they don't have that over here.
No.
Mm-mm. I've heard it's good. It's so good. The Fiend wants a slice of it. Um. So yeah, if there was a period last week where it all seemed like really kind of muddy and really bad for the WWE, and then after that, I feel like I don't know if everything got straightened out or anything like that specifically, but the WWE kind of made clear of a couple of things. They said that they weren't totally getting rid of Twitch and YouTube and things like that, but that if you, like you had said earlier, if they're not using the intellectual property that the WWE owns, aka their wrestling names, if the wrestlers go under their own names for their own Twitch channels and YouTube things and fun stuff like that, then there's no issue there because they own their real names, so they can do what they want with it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then again, like whenever Xavier was doing his business, he was always Austin Creed
Mm-hmm.
on Up Up Down Down from the very beginning, and that came out what 2 or 3 years ago,
Oh,
maybe more
probably
than that.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny because like I feel like it's not been that long. It's one of those things where like, oh, he's just started, and then you're like, it was 5 years ago. Oh, God.
Yeah.
What a happier time that was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like they've kind of cleared things up, but for a while it was still a big mess on their part.
Yeah.
Like I don't see why people can't just go out and do whatever they want and have fun with it, so long as they're not like being too slanderous.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the issue. That's what I would have taken issue with. If like that's why they don't give live mics to everybody on their show. It's because not everybody is gonna be great on the live mic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that maybe that's what the people need is they need like some of those other guys, some of the lower mid card guys starting their own YouTube channel and just like, yeah, I fucking hate that company, you know. Well, let me ask you this, right? Speaking of people on Twitch and slagging off a publicly traded company, I don't know if they are publicly traded. I think they are, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah. What about Rusev turning up on All Elite Wrestling, cutting a promo by getting a brass ring and smashing through a glass ceiling?
I mean,
He was kind of outspoken on his Twitch channel about some of the stuff that went on, and now he's turned up in All Elite Wrestling, and you know, and what an impact! What a debut that was.
Well, yeah, I'm not entirely sure it was a great debut. Like, I mean, if you're gonna bring in Rusev and try and push him as like, you know, a star who's been misused and whatnot and hasn't really had a fair shake of the stick, like, why bring him in as a random best man for Kip Sabian, who's like, you know, like a C-list jobber pretty much. He's not like a major character on Dynamite, and yeah, it's like so bizarre. Like, why put that stink on Rusev or Miro or whatever you want to call him like that early? I don't know how he recovers from this.
That's a weird one, isn't it? But
Yeah.
hey, at All Elite Wrestling, they're free. There's nobody to tell them no, so they're free to do whatever they want. They can express their own creativity, and I guess Rusev's creativity was just to turn up. Like, he didn't look imposing or vicious at all.
No, he's wearing like his Gucci pajamas or something.
Fucking Mickey Mouse t-shirt. He's like, hey, I'm the best man. Cool, man. Thanks for turning up. But like, he cuts this promo where he's like, you know, I'm gonna get the brass ring, I'm gonna do all this shit. I like personally don't like that kind of angle where people are like, hey, you want to see the piece of shit I just left, you know? Because like, one, it never works the way you want it to work, and two, you know, you just end up feeling like it seems a little like childish.
Yeah.
A little bit. And again, not to say that the WWE are not childish. You know, they have plenty of material where they're just absolute assholes. I mean, they were trying to stop people using their own YouTube channels, for fuck's sake. So
yeah.
they certainly are childish, but like, at least they don't have a tendency of having the wrestlers come out and go, you want to see the piece of shit I just walked away from? Like, I always think that's a weird angle. Like, it's very, I don't know, but especially the way that Rusev turned up, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't fired up about it. He wasn't like, I'm gonna prove everybody wrong. He just turned up like in his regular fucking clothes and made no impact on anybody. You know, like, what if he came out and fucking just threw Moxley off a bridge and then said, "There's no brass ring here. I've grabbed it. I literally have grabbed it. Now I'm the big man because I killed your heavyweight champion." Obviously, you'd have to, you know, tone down the depth significantly. But like, you know, that would make an impact, and then that would explain the fact that you can grab your own brass ring or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But they just turn up. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. See you later. Like, I thought that was super weird.
I mean, AEW don't really have a great history of debuting like new superstars who have the potential to be like, big names. Like, even if you look at like Brody Lee and stuff, and Lance Archer, Brian Cage, like, they've all kind of come in these weird spots where they've pretty much not gone over and not had like that major moment which immediately established them. So like, you know, Brody Lee pretty much came in and took over the Dark Order, which at that point was it was looking dead in the water. It was not going well. And then Lance Archer comes in, you know, he gets like a few wins. He challenges Cody for the TV title, and then he loses. And like Brian Cage, like what's he done? He kind of came in, kind of immediately got thrust into the world title scene, and then he lost as well. And that was like, oh, so why should we care about Brian Cage then?
Well, he's the FTW champion.
Yeah, but who gives a
Is he?
fuck?
Is he still the FTW? Have they dropped out already?
No, I'm pretty sure he's still using that to hold up his tights at the moment.
Here's the one that got me the most. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was super excited whenever Eddie Kingston signed for All Elite Wrestling, and I felt really bad. Like I'm like, dude, like you said, we have seen a litany of people coming in and getting just ignored, just wasted, like no push, no nothing. And I'm like, dude, Eddie Kingston is amazing, but they're not gonna use him right. Like you know they're not gonna use a guy like Eddie Kingston right.
Yeah.
And now here he is, what, a month or two later?
Mm-hmm.
What's he up to?
He's like, I don't know, trying to whip up support from guys who basically also faded into the background. Like the Butch and the Blade came in. They debuted like in a similar sort of fashion to like coming in and kicking ass and looking like a proper team, and then nothing was done with them. And then like Pentagon and Ray Phoenix, who are like clearly two of the best wrestlers on the planet right now. Like they're so good, and AEW have done fuck all with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy.
It's a weird one, but at least they can have their own Twitch channels.
Yeah, good for them.
Which it turns out now people in WWE also can do. So
yeah.
I mean, if I was in charge of that company, and God knows I've said that way too many times to count, but like that's not the way I would debut Rusev or Miro, if you want to call him Miro. I suppose we should call him Miro.
Yeah.
Because Rusev is owned by the WWE, and I don't want them to sue me.
Exactly.
Because they're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
I may as well be like, come try to sue me. What do you want? What have I got that I could possibly give to you? Here's a fucking beat up coffee table. Here you go. That's all I have. It's my Nintendo 64. I heard that the gimmick for Miro was that he's the best man.
Right.
Did you hear this?
That he's supposed to be sort of like a Mr. Perfect type, like he's the best at everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He used to be the Bulgarian brute. He used to be a guy that looked like he'd fuck you up, right?
Yep.
And now he's the best man. Like they threw it away for like a really bad pun.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird one.
Oh dear. But hey, he's got like bleached blonde hair now, so that's something different at least.
Doesn't Cody have bleached blonde hair?
Oh shit, yeah.
Oh, but Cody's not on TV right now. He's presenting Wipeout or something.
Even he wants nothing to do with the company anymore.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sure he doesn't find it that funny. He's like, no, I'm really busy. Got a lot on my plate, man. Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time badmouthing All Elite Wrestling. Is there anything else we can chat about? What else has happened? Oh, Revolution are gonna turn up soon.
Revolution?
Yeah. What's the name of them? Not All Elite. Not Retribution.
Retribution, yeah.
Revolution's a Beatles song. Revolution, that's what they should have been called, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what the outcome is, I guess, of Retribution. Like, as long as they've got something they're retributing about, but it's a weird one because it seems like no matter how it ends and like who's under those masks, like it's gonna be disappointing.
Yeah.
Like there's no way it's gonna make sense or feel like it's earned or justified or whatever. It's just gonna be like, hey, we're some NXT guys and we want Retribution, because we are stuck in NXT when we should be on Raw and SmackDown. There you go. Great.
I mean, you're better off on NXT.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's the hook, man. That's like, you know, they did like a little list of the people who were under the masks from like Raw or whatever. And then, the card subject to change. It might not be these guys, but like, if it is those guys under the hood, you'll be like, well, what are they getting retribution for?
Yeah.
Like, what are they? Why? I don't see why these guys would be like, you know what? Fuck the WWE. So I don't know how that can work. But also, given the fact that it's been like 2 months now.
Yeah.
And like, dude, nothing of interest has happened with those guys.
Indeed. It just looks so shit that like security are still somehow letting them slip by and come in.
Right.
Oh, good grief.
You think we should stop those guys wearing the black masks? No, this time they're probably fine.
They make a point of it like every week as well. Like Adam Pearce speaking to security, like, guys, seriously, don't let them in this time, please.
Imagine having to say that to your fucking security team. Like repeatedly.
Yeah.
Like I told you last week, nobody's supposed to come in. God, oh my goodness. Right, so it doesn't make them look very good, does it?
Nope.
A bunch of fucking idiots who can't even run a company. What a coincidence that would be. If that was, But like, yeah, I think this is a case of like one of those storylines where if they had, once again with the WWE, one of those storylines where like if they had a plan behind it and like meaningful like points that they could hit, like if something happened at SummerSlam, for example, they could frame something around that. They could have made these big moments so that by the time they do reveal whoever these pricks are, it'll be impactful. Because if they don't do that and also haven't previously built up who the people are, then like who cares? Because like, if he pulls off the mask and like, oh, it's Carl Billington, and people at home be like, who is that? Nobody cares. Like they can't use the reveal as momentum unless the people underneath those fucking hoods are like The Rock and CM Punk, right? Otherwise, nobody's gonna give a good goddamn about it.
Yeah.
So like they need to do actions before the reveal to make people give a shit. And from what we've seen for like 2 months, I don't think they've done that. I don't think they've done anything of note. I don't think anything interesting has happened with Revolution,
Yeah, it's.
I call them Revolution again. It's fucking Retribution. Sorry, I've been on a real I have been on a real Beatles kick recently. I fucking love the Beatles, but like how sometimes you go in and out of bands. Do you do this? Where like I have bands that I love, obviously, but like sometimes you just kind of stop listening to them for a little bit to get just for a little bit of distance, and then it turns out you kind of stop for like 6 months or a year, then you go back to them again. You're like, oh, I love these guys,
Yeah.
So now I'm back on my Beatles bullshit. That's some beautiful alliteration for everybody. What's your favorite Beatles album?
I have no idea. I've only listened to like greatest hits and what's on Spotify, so I don't think I've ever listened to a Beatles album all the way through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, some of them are really good. But anyway, what were we talking about before the Beatles? Oh, Retribution. Sorry.
I think you'll find they're called Revolution.
Revolution. It's because on the White Album there's a song called Revolution, but then there's also like Revolution 9, which is at the end of the White Album, which you've heard reference that one anyway.
Well, is that the one that they kind of parodied in The Simpsons?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
It has a loop of a man saying number 9 all the way through it, which is what The Simpsons referenced. It's not a great song. Like that one there. That one that's hard to like, tap your heels to. No, go back to Retribution.
Yeah.
Well, dude, if the people want me to talk about the Beatles, we'll do that. But we'll have to wait and see what the people think first. So yeah, not digging that storyline. I gotta say, dude, across the board, not a whole lot of stuff I am excited about.
No, it's it's a weird time to be a wrestling fan. Like, well, like a WWE fan or an AEW fan.
The two main ones.
Yeah, but then this might be a good excuse to kind of dip your toe into Impact Wrestling, which is, apparently it's the one company that's made gains over the whole pandemic era. Like, it's kind of rebounded and got a bit of momentum and started moving in the right direction. And on top of that, you got Ring of Honor, which I believe is back this week with the like pure title tournament that they've got going on. I believe over here in the UK, Revolution Pro Wrestling is up and running a few shows this week, or they had a show earlier this week, I should say. So yeah, it's like, there's other options out there, which is the good thing. So even when WWE and AEW don't sort of live up to our expectations, there's something else to watch.
When is the next Impact pay-per-view?
I haven't a clue.
Because I think that would be fun to watch. I feel like the last couple of WWE shows and All Elite Wrestling shows have been a little bit lackluster. I mean, SummerSlam was okay, but nothing's happened that made any of us go, "Fuck, that's amazing,"
Yeah.
So I would be interested in giving Impact another look. I think there's a WWE pay-per-view pretty soon at the end of September.
Yes, I cannot remember what it's called, but
it's
Clash of Champions.
Yeah. What date's that?
Oh, it's I want to say like the 27th, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 weeks.
Yes, Sunday the 27th of September.
Okay, so it would be nice if Impact had their show this Sunday so we could review it next week. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? I do not believe that's the case, but I would be interested in watching an Impact show and reviewing that someday.
Yeah, I'm totally up for that.
I think that's what we need. We need something. We need like something different, like a little palate cleanser, And also, Eric Young, their new champion. I'm digging that.
I think the next pay-per-view for Impact Wrestling is Bound for Glory on October the 24th. So we've got a bit of a wait.
Oh no, that means we'll have like 3 WWE pay-per-views between now and then.
Yeah, at least.
Oi, when's the next All Elite Wrestling one?
That, I believe, is sometime in October as well, but I don't know.
Well, you're the one who's gonna have to find that out because you're gonna be the one watching it.
Oh man, do I have to?
No, you don't. You don't have to at all. I tell you what, we can let the people decide if they want to hear us do All Elite Wrestling review. Because I gotta tell you, dude, I am checked out, man. I don't think I ever want to watch another one of their shows.
Apparently it's Full Gear November the 7th.
Oh God! All right. Maybe opinions will have changed by then.
Maybe. I mean, it's pretty much 2 months away, so they've got some time to turn things around.
Or to really make me hate that show.
Yeah.
Because that's what always ends up happening in wrestling. You know what I mean? We're always like, well, they got time to fix this and make it good, but they just double down on the bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that always the way? That's fucking professional wrestling for you. Boy, they hate their audience. It feels like that some days, doesn't it?
Oh, totally.
Oh, boy, they don't make it easy, which is exactly what they should do. I don't see why it has to be. It's some days it feels like a chore watching this shit,
It does, yeah.
Really fucking weird. Anyway, anything else you want to say about this week's wrestling news?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, like like you were saying about the third party thing, I kind of see it from both sides of the argument. So, I get that the wrestlers are kind of pissed off that WWE are seemingly trying to eat into their earnings outside of WWE, but at the same time, you kind of understand where they're coming from as well, like in terms of trying to, protect their business as well as their characters and whatnot. So it's kind of a weird situation, but I think it's all shaken out in a way which, I think is fair. Like in terms of WWE kind of trying to strike their own deals or whatever, and the wrestlers can still do Twitch or Cameo, but under their real names. I mean, it's like this is 2020, man. Like everyone knows everyone's real names or can easily look them up on, Google or whatever. So yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it all kind of blew over, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't some good publicity for the WWE, but they somehow have found a way to kind of smooth things over. But like you said with that Andrew Yang thing, I feel like change is going to happen soon at some point.
Well, yeah, that's assuming that Trump doesn't stay in power for the next 20 years, but we'll see.
Oh, he'll be dead long before that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think he might do it like a sort of Emperor Palpatine thing, like start cloning bodies and then trying to, force his soul into the clone body when he dies. And yeah, it's just going to be like an endless empire.
Well, good. Boy, it's been a long time since we had one of them,
Yeah.
And we'll just get used to it. You'll get used to it. The time will fly by.
We'll complain about it on Twitter and stuff, and that'll be it.
God, by that point, like Twitter will only be able to read messages. We won't be able to send them. Only our glorious Lord Donald Trump will be able to send messages. Because he'll just end up taking over the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have clones of yourself, you just send the clones to the other parts of the world and become leaders of those countries, and then soon it's just all Trump land.
So there's that to look forward to.
Yeah, and then he like turns part of it into like a theme park. And then he turns part of it into, he makes his own Death Star, but he calls it the Death Egg. And then also he goes to South Island and he tries to steal all the Chaos Emeralds. But down on South Island, there's actually a member of a resistant group who plan to stop this evil genius. And he can run really fast. Talking about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Well, I'm glad you were able to pick up on my subtle clues.
Yeah.
I think the theme park was that Knuckles Chaotix that he had his own theme park?
Oh, I can't remember that much detail, but it sounds right.
That was for the 32X. The Sega Genesis, the Mega Drive had like a expansion called the 32X. And they released a Knuckles game on it because they're like, people love Knuckles, here's his game. So like, because nobody bought the 32X, nobody played Knuckles Chaotix. It's actually not bad. Anyway, so I guess that's the end of the show. I tell you, not only are we good at intros, we are supreme at outros as well.
Hell yeah.
Is there nothing we can't do?
Someone say there's nothing we can do.
Another excellent point. Well said. All right, guys. Well, if you've enjoyed this wonderful show, thank you very much. Remember to check us out. All the other episodes are on what is it called? YouTube?
Yes, on YouTube.
Wow. This is a hell of an episode. This is the episode people will be able to point to and say, this is exactly, you can see how his brain tumor formed in this episode, They're like, this is the one where we could tell he was really sick, Yeah, dude, thanks everybody for listening to the show. We'll be back next week with another excellent episode, I imagine. And thanks for listening to the show. We appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one. Yeah, goddamn pricks. You gotta give it to them,
Oh yeah.
You gotta give the people what they want, and I assume what they want is me making fun of them.
Oh yeah, they want to be called pricks.